So, Nikki, is there a difference between videographers and content creators, or is that basically the same thing?
Well, I don't know if mine's an expert opinion, but I would say that not all videographers are content creators. And I would say there is a part of content creators that are not videographers. I am not a videographer. I could not fill the shoes of a videographer. But I do believe that I could take the title of content creator.
No, that's mighty.
I know, I feel kind of
That's
weird.
mighty humble of you to say. Well, let me give like a quick thought on what I
Okay.
see with the difference between content creation and videographers.
Okay.
I think YouTubers are a great example of content creators, and I think they stand out in a lot of ways that makes them content creators and not just videographers. A videographer technically is somebody that knows how to operate a camera, they know how to frame a shot, they know how to make sure that things are exposed properly and that things are captured properly, and they know how to tell creative story with the lens. Lens choice, setting choice, framing choice, motion choice. They study in all these things. A content creator, and I love watching YouTube, car YouTube videos where the creators are actually crafting the entire journey. So they're like, hey, I've got X car with X company to film in an X country. What's the story that I can tell? What's the piece that can be put together to tell that story? And so as a content creator, they're crafting it from start to finish, from concept all the way to reality. And so along the way, yes, they're checking all the boxes of being a videographer, but they're also a narrator. They're also a story writer. They're also the what's the word?
Really an architect of
yeah,
what their material is.
the architect of the marketing side of it, the creative director on site, and then they're actually the distribution person as well, which is a huge part of content creation. When it comes to putting on YouTube, I just watched a really amazing listened to a really amazing podcast, and they were talking about some basics on YouTube that we all should know by now because it's how we operate, and the hierarchy of thumbnail, title, then first 10 seconds. Well, a content creator is somebody who probably can manage for all those things based on where they are creating content. And I think that's the big difference.
So my point I want to bring up is, why does that matter to businesses right now? We're talking about a lot about creating content for businesses and using video. It's so important. And so I want to kind of set that table and get your response on it. But when we do a video shoot, there's usually another person, myself, involved, right? Like, you may put on the hat while you're there physically, the videographer, but we spend a great deal amount of time ahead of that preparing the content, writing the story, understanding what is the purpose of that content, what is it going to serve, how's it going to connect. But while we're there, that specific moment, you may have other videographers with you, but if it's just the two of us, you are filling the role of the videographer, and I am helping assist with what's going on with the content. And then after that short amount of time, you go back to content creator. But at that moment, you're responsible for the equipment. And what is so critical is for businesses to know that when they're looking to create content right now, they cannot just go look on whatever database and say, hey, I need a videographer.
Right.
Because that will not actually get them what is the desired end result. And that's the concern.
Right. Yeah. And I think, you could look at, there's a lot of examples out there that kind of show this in different scales. Usually a videographer is hired to do a specific purpose. So I think in a business setting, a business, they look at end product. The end product is, I want a video. So to make a video, you need a videographer. It's a very logical conclusion to draw. But in reality, you probably need someone that can craft on the very front end the strategy, the purpose of the video, how it's going to be used, what the plans are for it, so that those details can be set. And then on the actual day of capture, that there then is a list for the videographer to capture what the story they're doing, what it's supposed to look like, the feel, the shots that are needed, the audio and video type, the audio and video that needs to be captured. And then there's somebody who's actually taking that product and optimizing it for said goal. And so in reality, there's several different expertises in there. And I think that's one of the simplifications that a lot of business owners, and it's no fault of anybody's, but there's a lot of thoughts is like they don't understand, or they haven't really ever had to work in a space where they had to understand the layers of creative talent it takes to put something out. And I think it's no different than when we've done some creatives for, say, like designing a trade show booth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people are like, well, I just want the outcome, and that's fair. That's fair as a business owner. We want outcomes, but the reality is like if they were to work with a designer, like you work with a designer, they think it'd be very frustrated because that's only one piece of the puzzle. Or in a website, you know, it takes 3 or 4 different professionals to produce a great website. Well, one, you need somebody that can craft what the purpose of the website is. You need the strategy on the front end. Then you need somebody who can craft copy and understands layout and story that crafts in there. Then you need somebody that can design the look and feel of it. Then you need someone that builds the actual code, all the widgets, all the things we see. And we see it so often when one person gets thrown into that role, they don't execute on all the points because their expertise lies in maybe one or usually one of those type settings.
So you see that we like to compare always, you know, house plans or house building. You shouldn't go hire a framer to build your whole house. Because they know how to do their specific role, and it's very technical, and it's you know if you got a guy who knows what he's doing or not, right? But the general contractor is the one that actually facilitates making sure the entire house and all the people that are needed. More like what we talk about, the architect, which is kind of where that.
Yeah, and I think this is a really good place to draw that conclusion. Coming from a background of being a general contractor, a general contractor is actually a project manager with a specific license. It's a licensing of project management. And I don't mean to diminish that anyway. I have tons of respect for it. My dad is an amazing general contractor. But there's a big difference between an architect and a general contractor. And I think people may not even understand this when they think of houses because it's a terrible example. It's a terrible example. But in like the commercial industrial construction world, there's a big difference. General contractor is carrying out a set of plans. In a lot of ways, they're still a function that manages a lot of other functions. And an architect is the person who goes from absolute concept. They're sitting down with a client. The client says, I need a structure that sits on this much property with these challenges. It needs to meet these needs and these constrictions. And they give this whole list of what the vision is. And the architect designs that vision and then manages that vision and works with a general contractor from start to turnkey. And that is what, if I'm a company owner, this is the advice I think at the end of this whole rant, that we've kind of gone in circles, is that you need the same thing in almost any marketing deliverable, even creative deliverables. You need an architect who can take it from, here's my idea, here's what I want to accomplish, and work through all those steps along the way, bring in the right talent along the way, so that at the end you're getting that turnkey product that you imagined in your mind to begin with.
So I'd like to wrap this a full circle, like you said. That
wasn't a good wrap?
No, not for me. Clarification. So do we come to 3 or 4?
3. I think you really could have 3.
3 core roles that would be a content creation team.
Yeah.
And a videographer fills one of those seats.
Yeah.
So don't go hire just a videographer and expect them to have all of the talent and skills and ability to fill all 3 for your company.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean, hey, I can't have content created. It just means until you're ready to bring on all 3, you may have to have a hybrid of a setup. Maybe some are outsourced or so on, and you bring them on at different times. But you really kind of need to make sure all 3 roles are served. So you need an architect, you know, the person that is designing how this fits into your strategy, your company, making sure the content, where it's going to go, the storyline, all of that. You need a videographer, and then I'm sure we'll cover architect a little bit more later.
You need distribution.
And distribution, the person that's actually going to take it and post it and put it in the places that's going to frame it to the editor for the right channel, because each channel is a little bit different. Make sure that it looks on brand, make sure that it hits the right hooks, make the latest trends, all of that. So those three are critical. So a videographer does not necessarily equal a content creator.
And I think even to go so far as to say that in that team, someone who masters the content creation around what your desired outcome is would even be a better step in that role than even just a videographer.
Yeah. If you're going to, like,
Somebody
as your
who,
first hire.
yeah,
Because you can outsource the videographer. You can hire for that specific need
yeah.
at that time. So, yeah, your first one, I don't know that we should get into that on this topic. We should wrap this one up.
Yeah, and so there's a big difference between someone who's a content creator and a videographer. And there's also a big difference in what it takes to deliver the finished products you want than just the creative talent. There is definitely a need for someone to handle it from start to finish. And so in reality, every major project needs an architect. Now, you may be that architect, but someone needs to fill that role and give specific direction so that someone in a creative seat can shine and excel at what they do best. Why do most marketers avoid demand gen or turn demand gen into lead gen?
The short and easy version is because most company owners, CEOs, don't understand demand gen, and it's not easy to track, and it's not a instant button. So they want to be employed or they want to make money. So the easiest thing to do is someone calls them up and says, hey, I need some SEO, or hey, I need some ads. And instead of understanding the strategy, they give them what is asked for so they can make a quick sale or do what their bosses ask them to do or what they understand. And so they're not truly understanding demand gen and how to orchestrate that yet. And so that's why I feel like they're not doing it right now. And it's not easy to track unless you understand it.
I think marketers want to do demand gen, but inside companies, oftentimes the goals for marketing should be the goals for sales. We have too short of timelines looking for results, and demand gen is difficult to deliver on a 30-day timeline for a new thing. And as well as it's difficult to measure. And anything that is difficult to measure is difficult to get budget for and to get support for. And so we tend to go for the things that are easier to measure. The platforms measure lead gen, whether it's Facebook or Google or whatever platform you're using. It tends to measure clicks, and we like that, even if it's not how people buy.
I'm going to correct you. It's not hard to track or measure versus easy to track and measure. It's there are numbers. And people think that means that it's easy to track and it has meaning, and it's misinterpreted, the lead gen. So I don't think that it's actually, as we have seen and proven, that sometimes results don't actually mean desired results.
Yeah.
You can buy followers, by the way.
Yeah, well, you can buy followers. And here's a thought that I heard from an interesting source. Letting the companies that you buy the ads from do the measuring to tell you how successful you are might be a little naive.
I've heard that's like letting the high schoolers grade their own test.
It's a lot like that.
All right, done.
Who should be the voice of your company?
Oh, that's a good one. Well,
That's a good question.
Put that on there. It depends. An expert. Who do you want to be the face of your company? So, if there's a business founder, right, you tend to think them. There's plenty of examples of that. But some may not be able to be that person. They are not ready to be that, or for whatever reasons, they feel like they're going to transition it to somebody else. So there needs to be an expert on that subject. So it needs to be somebody in-house. It cannot be somebody out. But sometimes that role may be internal, just may not be the head. But I would lead towards probably 90% of the time it needs to be the founder owner. What do you think?
When it comes to the voice of your company, founder, owner of the company is an ideal person to lead with their voice. When it comes to content, subject matter expertise is critical. Your audience can tell the difference between a marketer who's trying their best to fake it and what?
I know I can't say that on camera.
Your audience can tell the difference between a marketer who may not have subject expertise versus someone who truly understands the day in and day out of the people they are speaking to. So when in doubt, when a founder cannot do the marketing, bringing in someone who can be a subject matter expert will bring a great depth of insightful, authentic, effective tones and perspective to your content, which is absolutely critical if you want it to resonate with your audience.
Well, I was going to say, you pulled out the word authentic. And I think that's when you're making content, people will listen if they feel like it's authentic and it's accurate. Like they listen to it. If you have someone that is a paid actor who is not authentic to that company, I think a lot of sales reps can be authentic to the company, right? But if it's a paid actor, not someone who has any expertise in that area, it's very difficult for that content to feel authentic or feel real or trust that person's an expert. And it comes across on camera.
Well, I think there's different levels of authenticity. There's authenticity from the perspective of the company, the concern, the product, and then there's authenticity from the perspective of the buyer. And I think sometimes salespeople, marketing people, as good as they are at their jobs, they aren't the buyer. So when they speak something, it's from a very third party looking in on the world perspective versus day in, day out. I think we've seen this in a lot of these trades industries. The content creators who rise to the top are the content creators who cut their teeth in the very trade itself. They understand what people are going through. And empathy should be the word of the day when it comes to any content.
Yeah, absolutely. We've heard that over and over again. People will be like, you just get it. You know the language, you understand the nuances. We don't have to tell you.
We've had the best success as marketing. We've worked with so many industries, but we've had our best success with clients in industries that we have some intimate understanding with. Thank goodness we have a couple we can draw from. What's the difference between lead gen and demand gen? I think this is a good question.
Oh my goodness, you probably have like a whole spiel.
I actually don't, because I haven't thought about these at all. These are just like my rough notes in my rapid fire. So I mean, I'm like, oh, maybe she'll say something that'll trigger me. All right, what's the difference between lead gen and demand gen?
So lead gen is you're trying to get hot leads with people that already have the intention to buy. I know that I want a car, so I'm looking to buy a car now, and it's a matter of whether I'm going to buy a Honda. I know you won't let me buy one again, or a Porsche or a SUV. I have the intent to purchase now, and I'm looking. So you want to capture that lead and bring it in and market to them, to call them, right? Like the lead is hot, okay? If demand gen is, I have no intention as a buyer of buying right now, I'm not interested, but you put content out that starts to get me interested in something, right? Captures my attention, tells me about a technology that I don't know, whatever that is, kind of puts me into the situation and creates demand before there is intent. So they capture me before. So like, it's like everybody's at a party trying to vie for the one lead, right? With lead gen. I'm gonna put an ad out because she searched for new cars. So I'm gonna go, minivan and bombard her at this moment and pick her up and call all the time, versus they're going to where I am casually, not in a sales situation, and feed me content that goes, So like, for example, if there was a content creator that was doing a episode on a new car, new truck, whatever, I wasn't intending to buy, but I see it. They demonstrate the truck. They demonstrate whatever's going on. And I'm like, that's pretty darn cool. So now, not only do I now am interested in buying, but I only have eyes for that particular model because I just saw how cool it was. They created demand even when I didn't have the intent and wasn't looking and searching to go do that. That's my quick.
Oh, sweetie, you don't ever give quick answers.
Was quick.
It wasn't quick.
Brad.
That doesn't fit in a TikTok at all.
Brad. I just watched a Simon Sinek one that was long. I'm not Simon Sinek.
Oh my goodness! When we have the pull of Simon Sinek, we can.
So Brad,
I wish I had the voice of Simon Sinek and like the way. What's the word? The way he enunciates.
oh yeah,
I'm listening to one of his books right now, and I'm just like, it's so nice to listen to him talk.
I was watching a TikTok. Someone asked him about something about I can't remember what the question was, and so somebody in one of his lectures was like, "Have you ever run $1 million business?" And he was like, "No, I have not." And he was like, "Have you ever run $1 billion enterprise, whatever?" And he was like, "No, I have not." He's like, "Then you shouldn't be talking about these topics." And he was like, "Don't read my book." He's like, "Next." My book's not for you.
Oh, that's so awesome. One of the great philosophers of our day.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you, hey, Brad, what's the difference between lead gen and demand gen?
So technically, the goal of lead gen is to capture someone's information who has some level of intent to buy a certain type of product or service. Typically, it's done. We want to capture the name, the email, the whatever. We want contact information so that some type of follow-up can be done specifically outside of any generalized or even targeted advertising network. Demand gen is something where, by definition, instead of capturing a lead, you are creating demand and affinity and education for a particular category or even company and their expertise. I think people might argue about which that is. I think the best way to think about it is lead gen is like putting a net in the water, right? Demand gen is like having a magnet that draws things. One intends to say, if something is here, I'm going to try to scoop it up. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's good or bad. Whereas demand gen puts a magnet that draws people to you, draws the intended audience to you.
Good answer. Was
it? Okay.
Worked for me.
All right. I was going to ask you what is good content, but we don't have time for that. Give me a couple of tips how to LinkedIn.
So I was like,
it's a verb, isn't it? How to LinkedIn. That's how I wrote it on here.
Number 1, do not send DMs. I just sent DMs last week. That's okay. With my account. Okay. LinkedIn. I would say depends on your purpose, right? That's the first answer to everything. So you have to have a strategy for it. The second thing, after I have a strategy, I'm usually looking for people or with job titles or with by hashtags. I go find my people, the right people. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, I'm going to let out a secret. Sometimes I may know they are interested in something. So sometimes you can do that by hashtags, right? They're interested in this particular hashtag. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I may know, like, for example, I did this one recently. I knew that a certain person who sold home warranties in a certain area was connected with all of a bunch of agents.
Yeah.
So I went to that person because they had all the people that I was looking for to connect to this certain person. Mm-hmm. And then went through and sent connection request to those people. Oh, I guess I skipped. You should optimize your profile first before you start activity. Mm-hmm. But so there's a whole process on that I can't get into. So optimize it, make it look good, have a really good solid about, have a company that actually ties to a company page, not just a little blurb, have a cover page, have a picture. Those are the highlights. Don't have a non-good professional picture.
Yeah, can I say something about the profile?
Yeah.
Is if your profile tagline indicates that you want to sell something to me, I probably don't want to connect or converse with you or interact.
So what you're talking about is as soon as you get a connection request and it says, hey, I want to sell you financial services.
Yeah.
You're like, you don't even open it.
There was a time when saying I help people do things was a very nice descriptive way to stand out on LinkedIn. Now, everyone who wants to sell outbound on LinkedIn does that. And there's like all these emojis and then like something like, I get leads for so-and-so. And it's like if you send a connection request and what right under your name it says I get leads for so-and-so, I already know what's happening. Yeah. Right? And so I think that's a huge, it's like, okay.
Well, and it also says newsflash, it tells you whether it's it's like people can do sponsored or
No
in-mail.
one is going to read your in-mail.
I don't open them up.
No one is going to read your LinkedIn in-mail.
Or your automated
So,
ones that
so I have a follow-up question to this because I
Okay, well,
think
I'm not done yet.
these are supposed to be rapid fire.
So optimize your profile. Okay.
Okay,
So we have
optimize profile.
Okay. No, we'll have a strategy.
Have a strategy.
Send connection requests to the right types of people.
Yeah,
Post on your topic that you want to engage people on.
yeah.
Okay. Do not put over political stuff on there, or do not put cutesy stuff on there to like be professional.
Right.
Not cold. You're still a person, but tend to be more professional. Don't send DMs. What you should do is go onto that person's activity and go into their post and comment or like their post. Get to know them, who they are, and what they're about. Don't just send a DM. Send a connection request. I don't send a note anymore because nobody reads them.
And it's like you're trying to
Feels
DM
like
them.
a sell.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't do that. Follow their content. Comment on it. Like it. Maybe repost it. Engage in a social setting on LinkedIn on their content. Way better. Newsflash, it will even show you if they comment on someone else's content, that like their other friend, and then you comment on their other friends' comments. Do not just say, hey, do you need some financial advice on, what is it, Bitcoin?
Yeah.
No. Okay, that's my quick.
There's no time for me to answer now.
What do you do on LinkedIn, Brad?
I'm not answering. I have a follow-up question.
Okay.
The action on LinkedIn is honestly happening in the comments. If you want to get past a barrier, if you want people to hear you, leave thoughtful comments. And that leads to my next question, which is what makes good comments on LinkedIn? Because all comments are not created equal.
I think you still are. So imagine yourself at a networking party
Uh-huh.
for an industry.
Uh-huh.
So don't act a fool.
Uh-huh.
Don't your opinion about certain things should be kept to yourself. About some things, be professional but be friendly. And so I think positivity. I think that's always the route to go. I do sometimes add a counter perspective on something to give an interesting point, a point of view.
Uh-huh.
I guess that's what you're asking. Are you going somewhere else? I mean, I just,
I'm not going anywhere. I'm just asking you.
Oh, I like to encourage people. I just like to add thoughts here and there, and I am always a champion of people making content. If they are making content, I just may say that's really awesome or that's cool. I'm so excited that you're making content. I may not even understand it, but I just want to encourage people really when I'm out there. And then if it's something that I know about or I have a perspective or point of view, I may add a little bit. But I don't think arguing is ever the way to go.
When you comment on someone's post, it's always a good idea to make it more valuable than just a like. You know, when we click like, I think that kind of gets lost in the shuffle, especially if the person you're commenting on gets 10, 20, 30 likes. They're probably not paying attention to yours. So then your comment should be more thoughtful than just great post, good job, thumbs up. You know, make your comment thoughtful. Let them know that you gave what they said, what they put up, some thought. I think it goes a whole lot further, just like in any relationship.
I use hearts. I use
And I say that, and I'm going to add to that. I'm terrible at networking events. I don't like to do that. I don't want to, don't take my advice on networking events. But
and me, I didn't realize that going up and hugging someone at a networking event was a bad thing.
So it turns out hugging strangers is not maybe always the right move.
I did not think that we were strangers. Hi.
All right.
See, when you watch content.
Last question.
Wait.
Last question on the rapid fire.
All right. When you start consuming someone's content and your friends
you can hug.
That's what I think.
You can hug in person. If you follow or connect with someone on LinkedIn, they've basically given you permissions to give them hugs when you see them.
Forewarn, Nikki will come up and give you a hug because you have a LinkedIn friendship.
Yeah. And on that advice, no, I have one more question just for you. I have no answer for this.
Okay.
Actually, I do. I have mine.
So didn't believe you.
You were drawing some differences. What is the difference in how you show up or how your content should show up on TikTok versus your website?
Ooh, good one. Okay, so when you are in a noisy club, right?
Yeah.
And long ago, right? You would have been in a noisy
Yeah,
club.
when we go out clubbing on the weekend.
You can't have a meaningful conversation with
Mhm.
somebody. So there's lots of people out there, right? And it's loud and there's lots of things flashing for attention, and that's social media. So you can't
Especially TikTok.
So you it is a quick like introduction or maybe like whatever interaction, but it is not a like tell me your life story,
Mhm.
like all of this. There is no lengthy, in-depth relationship building there. But on your website, so that's your content, needs to be able to kind of live in that space.
Edgy, punchy.
But still bring value, right? Because you want to repel the wrong people and attract the right people.
Yeah.
That's still concept number one.
Always insightful, even if it's entertaining.
And you can be entertaining on your TikTok and social. On your website, you want to take time and plan out the content there.
Which is like
a first one-on-one date.
Yeah.
So you want to make it presentable, a little bit more polished, more thoughtful. Someone has taken the time to come to your website. They want to know more.
Right.
Don't make them go there to learn, right? You could give them some more information on other platforms, like they go to your profile to find out more. However, if they've come to your website, you better make sure that there is polished content there that keeps the right people wanting to continue down that path of relationship with you to find out more, to go to the second date.
So what she's saying is on your website, it's Oxford shirt and some nice slacks. On your TikTok, you're free to go with a skin tight shirt and leather pants.
No, I didn't. It's not what I'm saying.
Thanks for tuning in for this like crazy rapid fire. We produced this and this comment comes out on like a longer form. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe, like. I don't want to see you in leather pants.
Bye.